Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. For the start of this video, look at this springtime scene with these daffodils which actually go right up this roadside for probably like half a mile or more. Today for this adventure we're joined by Highlander 87 and we're actually in this mad landscape of Glen Prosen. Check this out, we're in the wee bridge at the top of Glen Prosen, or halfway up. And I thought I would throw the camera on and do the intro because we're actually punching further up this glen to a mad wee location that we've never documented before on the channel. So yeah, when I saw this little bridge and this quaint little bit of countryside, I thought we'll do the intro, we'll throw the camera on and we'll show you. This is kind of the landscape we've been travelling through on the way to the adventure. Glen Prosen's got one of these little roads that just kind of waves through the land. It's like single track, single lane. But yeah, let's go on to the next part of this adventure, folks. Check it out, folks, we've made it as far as the main road actually goes. At the top of this glen, I've pulled the car in up here at the car park and we're actually way ahead up here. This is as far as you're allowed to come with your vehicle if you're a member of the public. It's all private residences and different areas up here, and we're away to basically follow this track up into the high glen here of Glen Prosen, and we're going to explore an area that we've never been before on the channel, and that's what we absolutely love. We adventures like this, exploring wee corners of Scotland and just seeing what's around the corner off, and so much fun. So let's get into action. Shout out to the local farmer here and his dudes. He's out feeding the coos and we're just heading up this hill like there's been a lot of timber operations done. Check it out, folks, we've actually walked miles since the last clip and we've come all the way up through this forest track, and this is the burn which actually goes right down through the lands of Glen Prosen. And look at this, there's actually a sinkhole here on the road that's been washed out from the burn and all the land has like fallen into the hole. So we've just had an absolute madness, folks. For the second adventure in a row, this happened to me last week up Glendall, but we followed that track and it literally just came to an end. So we've seen this little path kind of going into the side of this plantation and we're going to head over because literally there's another road runs back down to there. My car's parked over that side. So to save walking absolute miles all the way back around, we're going to try and do a secondary wee adventure. Look, there's a wee shed here with a tin roof. These spontaneous adventures, folks, will go left and right and we never know what we're going to see, but likely with this little shed it's probably a water supply or something water related, I would think. But this is a crazy wee adventure, folks. We need to try and navigate around that plantation in front of us. I just thought we'd throw the camera on and update the video. This is the kind of place we end up. It's like so remote that this here is the closest thing we've got to a road. And that's just what I love about Scotland, folks. It's so much fun coming into places like this, trying to navigate through it, and the wee predicaments along the way that you get into it. It's just crazy. I'll have a quick look in here, folks, just because we're passing by. It's maybe an old shepherding hut or whatever. Yeah, look, it's just like an empty little tin shed. Potentially up here there was maybe grazing or whatever for animals at a certain time. It is interesting to see it though, because it's a low roof. Anyway, on with this adventure, folks. I'll update you once we're round beside this forest in the distance. Look at this incredible view over the land, and the road we originally walked up is at the far side of the trees, way over there on the other hill. Check it out, folks, we've made it round to the edge of this forest and our perfect path has now kind of disappeared. We're going through this grassy, mossy terrain here and we're just keeping our eyes down for the tick situation. I do have the trousers tucked into the socks as an extra precaution here. But yeah, we basically need to kind of head around here and there is a proper road that we're trying to make it to. And that's the kind of crazy wee corners of Scotland we end up going. We're looking for history or abandoned things or even little nuggets it's just rarely seen. And it's so cool to throw the camera on at a time like this and just show you what actually it looks like. That is actually almost red, that moss. The different colours in nature and the mad forest environments as well. This is incredible, folks. We've been walking for miles and we're on this stretch of land between the newly planted area and then that totally incredible area that's been smashed down for the winds and the storms in this wild remote glen. And this here we're on now is now the closest thing we've got to a main road. We're pushing through this gap. We're just keeping our eyes down for the tick situation. I've mentioned it already in the video, but It's just so cool, folks. Being out in these places, sometimes when you try and do a full circuit like that on a walk, part of the walk requires you to go like off path or off route, and that's kind of what this section is. We're just in no man's land here. Wild Scotland, seen like never before on the channel. Check this out here, folks. There's actually one of those motion cameras, one of those nature cameras, and the boy's baiting it up. Highlanders actually walking right in front of it through the bait area. Wow, what an area. Yeah, we are just basically now, we've cut 90 degrees and we're trying to head back down to that road. The hilltop here is just wild. I'm not sure if there was a path at one time around this direction. It's actually less overgrown with the heather and stuff though at this point. That's why we've decided to come down kind of the edge of the forest. Look how absolutely devastated it is in here. Mission update, folks. We're in this total madness. Look, we're following this fence line. Then there's another track I've noticed that goes all the way up past that wee farmhouse, and it keeps on going. Maybe in a future adventure we'll head on further up there, explore whatever's up that road, a whole other valley or glen. This is a cool nugget for today's video, and we're literally just in the middle of this. It's such a crazy section. Like, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into at this point. And it is just always a madness on this channel. We'll always just persevere in the face of adventure to go to the coolest places and to see the maddest of things like this. Check it out, folks, for this section of the adventure. I'm running over the Highland Heather Hill and we're going back to the track, which is down here. We spotted this track, folks, and we thought we need to go for it. That was intense. It doesn't even seem like that far when I see the corner of the forest. That was a madness, folks. See, running through the heather and walking in that terrain, it was just absolute torture. So that was intense, folks. That last clip, we've had a wee moment to reflect since we came back to the road. And look at this postcard scene in front of us. This little farm just nestled down by the trees. That would be such a paradise spot to stay, with a little burn meandering its way down through the land. And yeah, that direction we've come, we've basically come from over there. And sometimes on our missions we get into situations like that, we know the general direction of where we're going, and the path just gradually kept getting less and less and less, and before we knew it, we're coming through the Heather Hill, and it is just the craziest of Scottish landscapes that I promise you on the channel. The way I do my videos now, it's like wee nuggets. Later on in this video I'll be going to somewhere else, to another spot, but today the wee clips I've included for here, it lets you see the distances me and Highlander go to even like find history in the first place. It's so cool. A lot of these big boulders at this side would have been put in when the road was first built here on the land, and maybe at one time a lot more trees and forestry work. A lot of this, it's all planted as a crop for the use of the forests, like for the use of the wood, I should say, and then when it's felled it all gets replanted. Check it out, folks. How can you get mad at a scene like that? And that's what makes these wee adventures into the glens totally worth it. A scene like that, a hillscape like that we had never seen before. And I've said it already when I was further up the hill, that wee house is so cool sitting down in the foreground of that landscape. It's so wild and desolate. There's some cliffs and stuff at the top of the hills, but it's mostly the land for deer and probably sheep at times up here. So for this spot here, like, we've been at this segment of the video, folks, we're actually back down at a similar area we started. We've done a whole circuit of this glen, and the wee clips you've seen was basically us in little predicaments as we made our way around. Alright, folks, this next segment of the video is actually now an evening walk, and I've actually changed location, as you may be able to see, and I can't actually believe it. This place used to be super busy. I'm on the edge of Montrose, and this is actually the edge of what used to be the old World War II airfield, and I've not walked here for years on a video, but I have explored a lot of the World War II history that remains within the lands here, including like shooting ranges and stuff. But tonight's adventure, or this part of this video, we're just waiting to have a wee poke about. I'll throw the camera on when I see anything that's cool, but I thought this location would be so busy with people walking, but it seems just to be peaceful and quiet. I got a whole car park to myself. This line which leads down through the land, nowadays a footpath, used to actually be the old railway line, and it used to lead right through that industrial complex. in this area here as well. This wasn't here in the war. This is actually a sewage works, and some days the air here is proper stinking. But a cool fact about this, it actually reminds me of the days before I was a YouTuber. I used to have a wee collie dog, and this is one of the areas that I used to walk the dog regularly, most days, so it kind of reminds me of that as I walk around here. I remember the wee doggy, and it would have been cool if we could have introduced the dog back in the day to the channel, but I never had a video with the dog on it, unfortunately. But anyway, let's get into this action, folks. So Montrose Airfield is so old that it's actually older than the RAF itself. There used to be a British flying squadron back in the day before the RAF, and this has been around since those days. And then Montrose here was used for training all the way up into World War II, and even things like this wooden pole here you can see with the crow on top of it, that'll be dating back probably to the World War II time period. And it is interesting seeing all those wee nuggets on the land. This is actually sand dune landscape here, and the Great North Sea is over that ridge behind that forest. So I'm getting a bit of a cool wind coming that direction tonight for this walk. I might punch on over to that forest to get a bit of shelter. So check it out, folks, there's a sign here saying about unexploded ordnance and such like, which may be in this area, because that is all the World War II airfield. But it was actually interesting because there was a grass runway, and as I discovered on a previous video, the actual metal mesh is underneath the level of the grass, and that was to give it strength under the tyres of the aeroplanes. But we've actually documented that in detail in a previous video. Tonight's video is more about just having a wee bit of fun, having a poke about. I'm just weaving left and right through these paths. And the interesting thing is, there used to be an area down there where the soldiers or airmen used to actually practice their shooting, and they would be firing up this direction to a row of targets that was just beyond, I would say, those yellow bushes, folks, but every bush here is yellow, and you can see the incredible colour on them at this time of year. But yeah, the firing range is just up this direction here, and you can actually hardly see it because everything's just so overgrown. And there's actually 2 firing ranges at this Montrose Airfield, so you can imagine the amount of airmen or servicemen that were training at once here or every year, preparing for battle and then heading out to the front line in World War II. Check it out, folks, you can hardly even see the entrance of this place, and it's incredible. Over the years it's been one of my favourite places just to pop in by if I'm out for an adventure in this area. It's just crazy, folks, check it out. The old metal pieces are in here. How's that for new camera angles, folks? 2025. And look, we're in the middle of this firing range, and it's so crazy in here. All the original winching mechanisms for the targets are still in position, and that's where I've got the camera sitting right now. But sadly, some of these ones have actually fallen over and gotten damaged, and I think a certain number of these were actually taken away and scrapped, because some of them are absolutely completely gone, forgotten. And it is interesting just now and again to document things like this before they are gone forever. Scenes like that of World War II history every year getting taken back over from nature. And you can just imagine it when it was thriving, and when the wartime processes of the training or the shooting was going on. What a noisy, incredible environment this was. The sound of the bullets rattling the targets. And I think there's been some kind of bench along the back wall here. You can see the metal brackets that lead their whole way along. Anyway, let's head out. Look, there's been a wee guard's hut at that side, almost totally overgrown nowadays, unfortunately. Anyway, folks, let's keep this adventure going. Look at this. I don't even know if I'm going to get through here. I think I'll maybe punch on over this direction. There's a few cool historical details, but you can hear that roar. It actually sounds like wind, but it's actually the North Sea. And I'll take a wee peek over and we'll see the white sands of Montrose Beach. Up this direction there's also Montrose Golf Course. Every year more and more of it gets taken away from the North Sea. But the reason is most of the sand dunes and area was originally underwater anyway, and the North Sea used to go further in here slightly. And then a lot of that stuff was deposited when the large tsunami which struck the east coast of Scotland, when it receded, it actually dug out Montrose Basin and created it. And then a lot of this stuff was all deposited from that massive happening. The massive geological happening in Norway basically caused the tsunami down here. And it is interesting to think about that. That's the history of the land. A lot of this would have been sand or whatever that was under the sea that came in with the wave, and then it was left behind. And you can see evidence of that as well all the way up the east coast of Scotland. Look at this, folks, with the grass blowing in the wind and the white sand. It's a proper picture of Scotland. Whoa, the tide's quite far in, check it out. The wild North Sea, folks. It features now and again on the channel. Years ago, when I used to come to places like this, I didn't have the windsock on the camera, and the wind was so much more blowy in the audio. Nowadays we can document stuff like this and we can actually see what's going on. Wow, this is such a big beach, folks. This is an absolutely massive beach, and I've not been here for ages on the videos. Look at it, all the way up there, miles, and then all the way down there, Glen Lighthouse in the far distance. And recently I've been to some of the rocky coastlines, and that's actually just kind of round that corner on the coast. For this video, I think I'm going to punch on up here. There used to be a few old like fishing buildings and stuff, but I think they're maybe destroyed nowadays. But it would be cool to maybe go up and have a look, see if there's any remains of the history up here. So this forest on the sand dunes was actually planted way back in like the 1940s or whatever. But because of the low quality of the soil on a sandy area like this, it takes so long to grow. The trees don't actually look as old as they are. They're all quite small trees, but it's just proper sand here for miles on this dune area. And it was actually used for military training, like I said, all the way from like World War I all the way up World War II. And the Montrose Airfield and that was a big, like a main British training airfield at that time, and there is cool wee nuggets of that. Check it out, folks. These wooden posts here are actually a sign of the fishing heritage here on the east of Scotland. And this little fishing bothy, I can see the roof's just about caved fully in, but this is actually where the fishermen used to hang their nets after the fish. And it's crazy to see these still standing here. Just think, for hundreds of years the fishing was the way of life on the east coast here, and nowadays like that scene's just dead in this area. And then I'm wanting to head down. One of my first ever videos when I was exploring like abandoned places was actually at a house down at this end. So I'm just pushing on down. I think it's past that next forest, so I've probably got about a mile, maybe no quite, just to push on down here. So I think I've still got the footage of when I was exploring this abandoned house out here that I think's actually destroyed nowadays and gone. But I was just thinking, as I walk to this abandoned location, I'll play the footage right here from back in the day. I think I'm going to hit and mute the original audio on my edit, because I think I had a banger playing over and it was copyrighted, so I'll edit a new song over the top of the footage. And it is totally shaky footage, but it gives you an idea of actually the construction that was here that's now gone. And it's cool to remember that history and kind of document the history with this video as well. Here's just a couple of little clips of the house that we're about to see once we get there, folks. So here it is. And here it is nowadays, folks. This is how history can go and disappear after many years. This used to actually be a fishing bothy where they would have sorted out the fish, and in those last few shaky clips with the music over them, that was videos that I recorded years ago, before I was even a YouTuber. The reason I had to take the original audio off it is because I had actually edited it with like a non-copyright tune. But it's cool to have that footage on this video, and the only clue or scar of there ever being in here is this old loading bank. And this is where they could actually come up and load lorries. The truck would reverse up to this, and then because of the gentle slope at the other side, they could easily load and unload their trucks. But mostly it would be the fish, they'd be catching it, and there was such a big fishing scene up here in Scotland. I should put the camera down for this clip, folks. I'm literally just chilling right now on this old loading bay, and just look at that, it's history almost gone and forgotten forever. I do have the windsock on the camera, so hopefully it's not too windy. Years ago when I came to places like this, you couldn't even hear what I was saying. This is mad, it's a proper sunset wee walk I'm here. What a view. And this is the only place you can chill out now at this location. We used to come here and hang out, and I think that's maybe a reason they demolished it as well. Other people were coming and hanging out. And a crazy story, one night I was walking the dog around this way. We used to go up and down the beach and stuff as well, but there was actually a proper rave going on here, and the music was banging out of the windows and the doors, and when I walked past I could just see everybody dancing inside the house. So it was the scene of many parties probably for local folk, maybe for like Montrose and things like that. But yeah, it's cool just to remember that fishing heritage and history with this video, and play those couple of clips that would almost be unusable for a future video. A lot of my old footage, it was just shaky content. I wasn't going to use it for anything but to tell the story of the history of this one building here. It's so cool. Yeah, let's punch on to the next spot, folks. Another artefact of history, military history, that went on all the way up into the Cold War. It was originally a World War II listening station at Canaber, but then later on it was changed and developed in relation to RAF and US Air Force at Edzell Air Base. There was actually a United States Air Force microwave repeater site here. That was basically repeating a microwave radio signal for the communications at a certain time within the United States. I think it was actually the Navy, to be honest, folks. I do apologise for that. United States Navy that was actually controlling that site, and I think it was them that had the Edzell Air Base for the later period of that, like all the way till the end of the Cold War. But it's cool to think about that. The big mast site was actually over in the land here as well, and that shows that the land here was used from World War I all the way up to the Cold War. There it is, folks, surrounded by a big high fence. That was the United States Navy Canaber microwave repeater site, working in operation with Edzell Air Base, because one of the gentlemen that actually served in the United States Navy got in the comments one time when I explored that place back in the day. You used to be able to get into it, and there was some cool Cold War relics, but it was the gentleman himself that told me the history of it and told me it was a microwave repeater site, and that was the reason that I even knew what it was. So that's super cool to share that with the videos. Look at this, folks, for a historical wonder. What does this mean? A.M with an arrow. What does that even mean? There's spiders and stuff in there. AM, and then there's a number. Wonder what that is. Originally I thought it may be Air Ministry or something like that, folks. I was thinking of Air Ministry, but I'm not actually sure. I just thought I would jump the fence when I saw it. I had to jump over and just document it, folks. A concrete block with AM with an arrow, and then it had that number. So what does it mean it's up this way? What does AM stand for, folks? Get in the comments with your theories. Alright, folks, this is now the next morning, and we've actually hit up another glen. I was going to go to another location last night at sunset, but I ended up just heading home for an early night, and here I am. I've punched up Glen Esk. That's today's glen of choice, folks. Yesterday I was up Glen Prosen with Highlander, and I went on some roads and that I had never been, searching for ancient history of Scotland. And today's adventure, I've basically come up Glen Esk, and I'm going to head over a road that I've never been on before. once again and just see if there's any history and document some pieces of land that I've never been before. One time previously I walked a small section of this road with Highlander, but there was a lot of shooting and stuff going on, and we were looking for another ancient wonder of a tower on the hill that we did find. But today I was thinking I'm going to hit this road up and just see what's up here, folks. So let's get into action and see what happens on this crazy wee adventure into Scotland. So I was saying it a few videos ago that I was wanting to try and capture some lambs on video, and here they are, folks, in this field. Look, all these newborn lambs here out chilling. I was going to say in the sunshine, but there is a bit of cloud cover today. It's quite humid and there's not really any wind. Look at this, folks, it's so cool. Some of these little ones here down getting a drink. I love to see it, folks, when the wee lambs and the cafes are out in the fields. Such a special scene of Scotland. And obviously at this time of year you hate to come with the respect for like the landowner and that and their livestock. You don't want to be upsetting lambs or sheep when they're, when a sheep's pregnant. You're better not making it run about, or you always hate to keep your dogs away from them. Yeah, look, there's an entrance kind of going under the field there. Wonder if that's an old drain or whatever. Maybe ancient times they brought water down under the field. I've punched on up the path about another half a mile or whatever, and these wee lambs, they're just so cute, folks. I can't get enough of them. Look at them. This is my path here. It's actually a footpath to Tarfside, 5 kilometres, and I'm just basically going to punch on down this path a wee bit, just see what we can see. Already I can see stone remains and outlines. Sometimes there was piles of stones left behind from, like, the farmer used to clear the fields and then pile the stones in one area, but other times some of the wee piles of stones could actually be remains of buildings or little ruins. So I'm just going to head down this track a little bit and just see what I see. So when I went up Glen Prosen with Highlander, it was all quite foresty and it was mostly woodlands like all around, whereas this walk today, it's more like open fields and old farm ruins and stuff like that. That's how I'm kind of hyped about this, to walk this route that I've never been before, just see where it ends up. And I reckon it must head up this way somewhere, because Tarfside is the little village kind of located up at the top of Glen Esk, or near the top of Glen Esk. And I have documented like the ROC nuclear bunker and stuff up there before, so it's cool on today's video to hit up another bit of Glen Esk and just see what's around. And already I'm seeing like loads of stones, little piles of stones. I'm not sure even what I'm seeing yet, folks. When you get sheep like this up ahead on the path, I always just give them time. Like she's scratching her coat on the fence, but I always just give them time to get out of the way. The sheep actually got a fright when the birds flew away rather than from me there. Yeah, it's these hill birds there fleeing about as well. Wow, what a funny noise these birds make. I don't know if that comes out on the camera. And I actually heard a grouse as well over at this side. We're right up in the lands of the wild hill birds right here, folks. Check it out here, folks. There's actually a fork in the road here and it goes both ways. And I'm just thinking I'm going to head this way. But I'm really not sure. It's 50-50 and I'll probably make the wrong decision. That's probably the main path there that I should be going. Because I'm unfamiliar with the terrain, though, I'm thinking this one looks like it stays within this kind of valley. So I'll head down it a wee bit and see. Look at this wee sheep's coming in about. You're actually better not to touch them. I'm not going to touch it like a little puppy kind of, or like pat its head, because when they're first born you're better letting them go with their parents. Like see that one there, it's returned over, it knows where it needs to go. And I'm just keeping them relaxed. I'm no, if they're like running about or whatever, I'm just trying to stay still and keep them calm. But I'm at a fair distance anyway, folks, like they're totally fine. There's so much stones and stuff here, and I'm not sure what it's been. Maybe an old quarry or a dump at a certain time many years ago. It's a serious amount of rubble and stones, maybe cleared from some of the fields back in the day, and then all just deposited in that one area. I'm hoping I can just kind of push on past all the sheep here at this point. So I still don't actually know if I've selected the right track yet, folks. I've been following it on for a good while. I've kind of come over this corner area since the last clip, and I can actually see there's like a pond or a dam of some sort up ahead. So I'm not sure if this path maybe just goes to that. There's some kind of rat or a mouse. I don't know if that even comes out on the camera. It's such a high frequency sound. There's a rat or a mouse somewhere down within this. It'd be interesting to see if that sound comes out on the camera. It's like a high frequency noise that the mice and the rats make. And I'm just allowing the sheep there to casually wander off the path. And hopefully I can just continue on my way here, up past them. It's a fun wee area, like, but I've not seen any wee historical nuggets just yet. I think I can see an area which is set up for shooting. It seems to be an area where there'll be a lot of game keeping and stuff goes on. Look at this, folks, lying in the field where the lambs are. It's actually, it says on it, world's #1 lure. And that just shows, like, people's out here dropping litter in an area where the sheep could come along, get harmed from it. And I don't like to see it when I'm out in these wild lands, folks, especially in people's fields. There must have been somebody up here doing a bit of fishing. So maybe even the farmer himself. So I've continued on this path, and it's actually kind of doubling back on itself, and it's heading over the direction of this pond, or this like little dam that's kind of here. So I'm not even sure if this is the path. I was thinking my path should punch on up there, and I think I could see a path up there. So I think maybe this is the wrong one. I'm just wondering if I went up that way, if that would actually link up with the top path. But I'm going to take a look over here first, see what's round the corner at this little pond. So check it out, here's a countryside dam that we have never seen before on the channel. Some of these dams used to be made back in the day to power like a water wheel, a mill or a farm. And there is actually a mill further down there with a water wheel on the side of it, and it's likely it was originally built for that, the supply of the water down to that area. And that's maybe how we saw that hole coming out of the field. When I first saw the lambs on today's video, I was saying it looks like there's been water below the field, and this actually explains it. It's crazy that a little bit of history comes to life, and you can see what was actually done for a mill at the bottom of a glen. In the more recent years, this dam here will have been used for shooting. Often dams like that on the estate serve multiple purposes, not only for the water and stuff of the mill, but also for the shooting and the game keeping in the lands. And that's obviously where that wee track was leading to that I followed. I'm just thinking I was going to head maybe up that track, but I don't like walking through just endless sheep fields and stuff like that. I've been okay so far, but I'm really not sure the lie of the land here. It looks like there definitely is another track though, and I think I'm going to punch on up a bit further. Here we are, folks, we've made it to this high crest on the hill. There's the wee pond at the bottom of the hill that I was at, and I've come probably like a mile, you could probably say, since the last clip down at that little wall line. And the landscape at the top of this hill is mad. It's so rocky, and then there's like a big gorge kind of leading through the middle of it all. And then over at the far side of that, it's all rocky and cliff-like terrain. But it's just breathtaking. Now I can see all this distance. I'm going to just go around this corner a wee bit and get a full view of the faraway hills here. It's just so much fun coming out into lands like this, and I love going on tracks or roads that I've never been on. It's so far back down to my car. I can see the track disappearing over that grassy field in the distance. My car's somewhere down in that hollow near the far hill. And that's sometimes what my adventures are like, folks. I'm walking absolute miles, and I just throw in the camera on now and again to show you the most incredible views along the way. So look at the rocky cliffs of the far mountain, shaped like a witch's hat. It's amazing the views you get from up in this high glen landscape. And this is the closest thing we've got to a main road. And that shows how desolate and remote that it can actually be out here in Scotland. Look at this scene, folks. It's like we've just got a massive painting in front of us. So on the way along here, I actually noticed there's a wee track going down towards that cliffy kind of bit at the bottom of the hill, and I thought it'd be cool maybe to go down there. I was away to have a look at this sign, because literally Tarside's over that direction. Yeah, I'm basically halfway between. Look, it's 3k each way, and it's more of the same on these old paths leading through the land. There's other paths going over that direction as well. I love scenes like this, folks. It is literally like the wildest of Scotland here. This is the closest thing to a main road. I say it often in my channel or on my adventures, but it is true. It's crazy. This is what you would call a road when you're up here. It's literally just a part of the hill we know heather. So I get the feel that at a certain time this may have been used as a bit of a quarry. It's just really unusual the way these big bits come through the land. It's almost like cutouts. So it could have easily been quarried back at a certain time. Maybe some of the houses and farms down the glen is built from the stones on an area like this. Or from an area like this, I should say. There's some animals that you would get up here on a summer's day, like adders and things, but I've not seen any of them this year. But Glen Esk, all the way up to like Loch Lee and beyond, that's an area where you're just about guaranteed to see adders on a sunny day. And I've seen so many there over the years. Yeah, I thought the track might keep on going down to a wee spot. The landscape here is just savage. It looks like there could even be like a wee cave or whatever at that side. Whoa, there's loads of these boxes at the top of the hill, and that's for the shooters to sit in when they're on a shoot. They're probably firing over this direction. Look at that rock there, folks. That's a pure massive chunk of quartz in the ground right there. And yeah, these big chunks of stone. I'm actually coming up through this wee path into the area that I thought may have been an old quarry. It's all like this wee labyrinth of highs and lows. So this is the area here that caught my attention when I first kind of walked past the top of the road. I could see down here, and I thought it definitely looks like this has been dug out. Check that out, folks. That's a Scottish thistle right there, or that's a thistle grown in Scotland anyway, and they're all slightly different. Check them out. If you put your hand in the middle of that, you would be spiked. Look at this one as well. You get so many different types of thistle. And sometimes I never take the moment just to look down at what's actually growing all around me. Crazy different types of plant or things like that. A lot of the plants in Scotland have got so many spikes because they're defending themselves really. If a plant's got that many spikes on it, it can withstand a harsh environment. Not a lot of animals mess about with it if it's like that. And yeah, I've kind of come down into this area. I was thinking there was a way I could go that direction, but I came up that hill there. It's like, how do I get into these corners, folks? So these would be amazing little camping spots, but I think it's the sort of thing you would really need permission for the landowner or whatever. But it's just so peaceful and idyllic. And then even if it was windy, you'd be able to camp down in that hollow. Wow, what a scene, folks. I'm actually keeping one eye to the ground in areas like this for adders, because in previous adventures I've just about stood right on top of them. Sometimes they can curl up in a little circle and they're hard to notice. Other times you just don't see them if they're going through the grass. Another thing you get up here is actually a slow worm, and that is basically, it looks like a snake. It puts its tongue out and in like a snake and stuff like that, but it's actually a legless lizard, and it's called a slow worm, and I've seen a few of them on my adventures as well. There was one time we saw an adder up Glen Esk though, and people in the comments kept saying it was a slow worm, it was a slow worm, but it definitely wasn't at that time. When you actually see the animal in the flesh in front of you, you can tell the difference just from the markings on it. The cool thing about the rest of my walk, I'm going to go back down the track, and that's a completely different direction to where I came into this location. I came like all the way down through that lowland area, basically up by that pond and then round, whereas the actual proper track's going up this direction. So let's see where we end up right now, folks. It's just a total madness in these remote lands. So from this video you can actually see what I mean when I say it's often like a little country within a country when you go to a different glen, or it's like a different county within a county. Like the landscape between Glen Prosen at the start of this video and then here at Glen Esk, you can see the clear difference. It's like going into a different country altogether, and it's so much fun to explore in each of these different areas, and there's always something new to be seen or a new bit of land to be explored. This is the view from the other side. We were right over at that kind of peak on the brown hill there in front of the amazing mountainscape in the background. They're all hills as well really, rather than mountains. That's what Scotland's like. A lot of that would have been mountains originally, and apparently it was all like levelled off for the glaciation period. The ice grinding its way over the land. Crazy to think about stuff like that, eh? When you're out seeing the size of these hills. Think about the madness of snow and ice that used to be on these lands. So at this point on the walk, I'm still not even sure if I'm on the right track. I'm just pushing on and following the track that I'm on. On the way in, I came right along the bottom of the hill, so I should be roughly in the right place. It was cool to have the segment in the middle of today's video as well with Montrose and the history there with like the fishing heritage all the way from the sea level up to here to the highest glens. It's amazing to start in Prosen, like I said already in the video, to show the contrast between those two different Scottish glens. And we're still up in the highlands here of Glen Esk. There's little structures all the way up the hill, and that's actually for the shooting. They're called grouse butts, and that's where each gunman will stand and fire from as the animals or whatever he's aiming for come within the range of the shooting area. And each person gets a number often, and each station has got a number, and then when they move to like the next location they'll swap over what number they're standing at, so you always get a fair shoot of the area when you go to each location. And that's how there's always multiple grouse butts on hilltop areas like this. It's fully made for the shooting, and these grouse butts go all the way up the hill, and they're all over the hills in different areas, and often a shoot will do that. They'll move over different bits of the land as the day goes on, and it's been a Scottish tradition for many a year, folks, and that was often the backbone of the income for a lot of the Scottish estates up in these glens and on to the wild Highlands and beyond. And then the other side of that is also the farming and the shepherding that goes on in these lands, and today we've documented that whole scene. It's so cool, folks, and I just love being out here for these wee walks. It's actually just past midday, so I've kind of been out early on this one, and then it's cool to get that refreshing walk, the fresh Scottish air up here on the hill. Often on a Scottish shoot, there's a truck or a vehicle brings them to this location, and then they would all walk up to their shooting position, but they didn't really walk between each location. It's more just like jump back in the vehicle and then they get taken to the next destination. That's kind of how it is. It would be more of a madness if you were kind of just out on foot poking about. That's more like what the gamekeeper would do on a yearly basis, every day, managing the land in between the main shoots. There's literally so many grouse over here making their call. Don't know if that comes out on the camera. They fly up, and then as they're landing they make that noise, that boop, boop, boop. It's a hard noise obviously to replicate, but they're unique kind of birds, and that's the kind of birds they'll be shooting for those spots up on the hill. The grouse, they're fully bred into the land here, and this is why the habitat here is created for them, with the heather hills and the burning of the heather. And there's a grouse just literally sitting on that mound of grass right in the middle there. Now and again they just go mental making that call and doing their little flight pattern. See, this wee countryside farm's got a little loading bank like we saw at the old fishery in this same video, folks, down at Montrose. It shows it's the sort of thing you would have in multiple locations, like a fishery or even a farm way up here in the wild land. And look at the view from this place on the hilltop. I walked down that way when I came in, so it's been cool to do a full 360, and I've come down off that hilltop path. It's been so epic, folks. Look at this, folks. There's a sheep here that's actually no in the field, and that's the reason they've got these cattle grids, to stop them going away further down the valley. But I just thought I would throw the camera on, because look how tame he is. He's just chilling there eating the grass, quite happy. he must have somehow gotten out of these fields here. And it's always important, the countryside code, folks. You leave the gates as you find them, you close the gates. The only trouble is, look, this here, he can just walk free. I'm not sure what field he's come out, but the gate's fully open here and he can walk right around the cattle grid. Yeah, he's just grazing. He's peeking over the top of the rock. And these are weird things to walk over for sure. See you, buddy. So here's my historical theory that we've learnt today, folks, on the video. I believe the water was coming from this burn that flows down here for the wee mill, but I think in the like event of the burn being low or there no being enough money, I think they could re-divert water from the dam that we saw up the far hill, and I'm not sure if that's one of the areas the water would have flowed out of. They used to be mad back in the days, like in the 1800s and stuff. They could proper put waterways and stuff under the ground, and so long's passed now you would hardly know what was done. Like under the field there, you can't even tell that there's been anything dug at a certain time now. But yeah, around the corner here, the little mill still sits in the land, and it's actually got the water wheel right on the side of it. But it's interesting to connect those two bits of history, and seeing the wee dam or the pond today on the hill that I didn't even know was there. I've seen other mills in the past like that, that's got a normal water supply, but they also have a secondary backup water supply like that. So then they could keep on milling, even on the days when the local burn was quite low. And often over the years you can kind of piece together the history you're seeing just by learning about how each place worked. And then you can kind of see what was done in the land to make a building like this work. And it looks like the ground's been freshly redone here. It must have had like a bit of a landslide or whatever. The road's been resurfaced. Well, the edge of the road has been refurbished. I don't even know what the word would be. Restored. I'm not going poking about because I don't know if it's been made into like a private residence or whatever nowadays, but there's the water wheel on the side of that mill, and I reckon at a certain time that dam on the hill may have been linked up or a water source for a thing like that, and that's cool to hear that on the channel. It's also been cool to have the wee story like the grouse butts and the way that sort of thing works in the Scottish lands. It's cool being able to share on the channel like the area I'm from and the sort of places that's on my doorstep for adventure. Everything from the wildest hilltop to the craziest little valley scene. And on today's adventure we've been all the way at the start from Glen Prosen in the maddest of forest landscape down to Montrose on the sand dunes, thinking about the history of the fishing heritage and even the military heritage with that little nugget in the shooting range. And then to come here today to finish it off in such a mad, picturesque area of Scotland. It's almost been like walking about in a postcard. Right up on that rugged, wild hilltop where there was so much like animals, like birds and things flying around. I probably saw like 20 or more different types of birds. If I was actually a bird watcher, I probably would have known each species I was looking at, but yeah, it was just interesting, folks. Anyway, I'm going to end this one here, folks. Thanks very much for tuning in to another BKR adventure. I'm not sure what I'm going to get into next, but for that you'll hit tune into the next video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks to everybody that has hit subscribe and that's tuned in, and everybody that gets in the comment section from all over the world. I love to hear your little stories or even theories about what I record out here in Scotland. It's so much fun. Anyway, I'm ending it here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you soon with the next one, wherever I end up going.